1406 Hamilton Street. And again, I'm just going to mention a couple of things because I really do, one, thank you for the opportunity to talk to, agree with a lot that's been said. I kind of am here wearing a few hats as a resident, as a member of the West Park Civic Association, and also as the head of the board for the YWCA. So in particular, the issue of dealing with after-hours clubs, in particular the one we have in 1101 Hamilton, I would love to see advanced. But I'm actually going to pick up on something Peter was saying, which is the transport to New York, to Newark, possibly to Western New Jersey. So I'm someone that does use that Transbridge bus depot, and I would think with maybe not too much money, if we could pretty it up so that if somebody does want to use mass transit to come into Allentown, their first impression is a more positive one. I think there's also an opportunity fairly easily to link better with Lanta. I know, physically moving it to where the Lanta Transportation Center is certainly one option, but even just taking where Transbridge is, and I don't know all the history, I think Transbridge has a long-term lease for that space, but just linking it better. There is a bus stop for Lanta, but it's probably hard for somebody from out of town to realize that. So maybe a little bit of marketing about, hey, take the bus in and you can get to 7th Street. Maybe shuttle buses on the evenings when there's events going on. I think just taking a look at it, I noticed that the parking there is filled. And I've probably been a full-time resident for about 6 years, I would say, 6 or 7 years. Years ago, you go down there at 6 o'clock in the morning and nobody was there. You go down there now, it's filled. So more people, and again, maybe even a survey, just how are people using that bus depot. But I'm a bit of a mass transit to get from the city into other places that are going on in New York. And that might be, again, I think it can enhance the marketing, the discussion of making Allentown a place where people want to come for different events. I've actually, now that I'm working at Novartis in Western New Jersey, I've had people ask me about the PPL Center. As an alternative to going east into Newark or into New York City, they want to come to PPL Center and come west. So I think we can kind of think a little bit how can we enhance the ability for people to do that. I know it's going on somewhat in New Jersey, and I don't know the correct term, but some of the inter-county public transportation. So how can we link better with Colmar so that people could take the train to Colmar and then come up to Allentown? How can we link better with the Summit train station for New Jersey Transit? Could we possibly have some bus transportation for one of the Western New Jersey Transit? Obviously having train service in Allentown would be the ideal, but I'm not holding my breath. So that's one piece. I think from more of a West Park hat would be, and I think Courtney, you mentioned it in your introduction, making it easier. There's a little bit of inconsistencies at times between what people, the hard guidelines, and people who are purchasing properties in the historic district, and where they make it conflicting guidance or requirements between our building code and then what the hard guidelines are. So that I think that's an important thing to, again, somewhat simple, but to focus on that, because I would say anything we can do to protect, enhance, and market our historic architecture, it's a strength. That's what brought me downtown, and that's what we love about being in Allentown. And I think those, again, the main thing, in terms of the other priorities, education is probably one I would put very high. Until we can address the education issue, you're not going to be able to get the, beyond millennials, young adults with young children to stay here. We kind of have, I think, empty nesters we're seeing are wanting to come downtown more. The millennials are still working on, but then once those millennials become parents, there's going to be a real issue. We can address the school. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Jeff Barber. I'm the president of Lehigh Financial Group here in Allentown, located 1244 West Hamilton. I just want to say thank you for having this evening. I think it's extremely important. I have to really say that I echo the sentiments of everybody that's spoken before me here. They've said a lot of things that have been on my mind, and I think we're all here because we love our city, and we have a great love. That's why you ran for this position here, because you love our city, and we're here because we want to see the betterment of the city also. Some of the things that I've spoken with you, Courtney, over the years about different things, and one of our biggest challenges, and I know we all know, is our rental properties. One of the things I do is I finance commercial buildings in the city. All over Lehigh Valley, I do commercial lending, and You know, I've been in a lot of these properties, I've done a lot of site visits and walkthroughs, and I've seen some of the conditions, and it's horrible when you see some of the rental properties, with some of the landlords, if you want to call them landlords, they're really slumlords, I should say. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold yet. But when our forefathers built this city here, they built 100 homes on a block, and they never intended to have 300 families living on a block. So what's happening is you're cramming, you know, more people into an area that was never intended. That causes rental properties to have more, you know, there's more wear and tear, there's more strain on our infrastructure, like water and sewer. Our roads, we have more garbage. It's a strain on our EMS, our police, and our fire department. Most of the blighted properties are rentals and are not owner-occupied properties. So a lot of our problems come from our rental properties. It also causes overcrowding in our schools, and that has a major impact on pushing our school taxes higher, and suppresses property values. If you look at neighboring towns, real estate, if you look dollar for dollar, a home could be worth double outside the city, but your taxes are higher in the city. So the higher the real estate taxes, the lower the property values. So our properties, especially, you know, homes, will not go up in value, which hurts us on transfer tax. We make money on transfer tax every time a home sells, so we're only hurting ourselves. One of the things I hear is we can't afford it, which is absolutely true, but we're already spending the money. We're already spending money somewhere. But decommissioning rental properties back into single-family homes, I think, should be a priority in the city, because it would take a lot of the strain off of what's causing overcrowding in schools. And, you know, the school districts have to raise taxes, and unequal funding for them in Harrisburg. Harrisburg has never addressed the issue, and I have no hope for them to address the issue. So we have to work on it ourselves. How do we help the school district? We try to take some of that problem away, and that's the overcrowding through rental properties. People come here, people are transient, they maybe work cash jobs, they don't pay taxes. When you have a homeowner, they have a vested interest in this town. If they just rent, they tend not to care. I grew up in apartments most of my life as a kid, and I got to see people who went in and out. So I know how people feel about apartments. Their attitude is, it's not my property, I don't care about it. Why should I fix the front door if it's coming off? They said, I'm paying rent, it's my landlord's job. If it's your own home, you're gonna fix that front door. You're gonna make sure it looks nice. You're gonna do landscaping on your home. So, you know, these are really important issues, and I probably, my focus would be on there because I see it all the time. Being that I do financing for a living, I see the rental properties, I see the issues that come up with them, and how I've dealt with some of these landlords. I know how they are firsthand. They really don't care, and, you know, but we have to give them some type of incentive to sell. I just want to cover a couple of things here. There is a housing shortage going on in Lehigh Valley. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but we have more property buyers than we have homes right now. And I can tell you that there's a handful of realtors I know that would love to be able to find a new home. We have a lot of first-time home buyers, but people just can't find properties. There's a major housing shortage. There's not good properties on the market. If there are properties on the market, a lot of them are just junk. Talk to anybody that's in the real estate industry, they'll tell you it's garbage out there. So if we could somehow take these rental properties, you know, work with people, try to work with the landlords that aren't taking care of them, try to give them an incentive to sell and give them an incentive for people to buy them, you know, that would really be helpful. I really think that the deconversion of multifamily back to single family is something we should focus on. We should also work with, like, the, you know, Lehigh Valley Realtors Association. They would help us certainly be able to get the word out if we were doing like deconversion. Let's see here. There's a couple other things. Maybe even, you know, waiving the transfer tax upon a purchase and sale. We can work on something like that. I can tell you, years ago there was a big tax abatement program in Philadelphia that went on. It was super successful in Philadelphia. They did a 10-year tax abatement, and I think it was mainly on commercial properties. I don't know if it was so much residential, but it was huge because a lot of people came in and they got a 10-year tax abatement. I know it's very difficult to give money away, but we're already spending the money on other things. But if we could have people, if we could give them money, maybe through the NIS, like I know the NIS authority gets, I think, 20% of every dollar that is collected from the developers. We filter that, some of that money, I think, into streetscaping, the lighting. We should look at trying to, you know, do maybe like block by block, like Don had said, certain sections. Maybe we focus on spending some money, giving some, you know, grants to families that want to move in, take a property, take it from a 3-unit back to a single family, maybe some facade. I mean, think about the facade restoration program that Peter and the Community Action Development put in place. Just imagine what 7th Street would look like with no facades being redone. And I laugh because Peter and I talked about this many times. He says, nobody wants to go through downtown Beirut to get to the city. You have to have it look beautiful. And it's very, very true. But picture what Center City Allentown would look like with no storefronts done on 7th Street. You wouldn't have 100% occupancy. There's not one available storefront. And why is that? Because they've beautified 7th Street. And that was a labor of love, a lot of work. And Peter has done an amazing job over the years. And it's been property by property by property. And it's because he's been dedicated to it. And I think if we had somebody like a housing council, we had somebody like Peter dedicated to deconversion of rental properties, that would be a huge benefit to our community by taking a lot of stress off the money that we're already spending, and just try to help the community and make those homes what they originally were, homes. Give people the American dream again. And I think that's, in my opinion, something that's very, very important. But I just want to thank you in closing for taking time out to listen to the community, and I hope something really results from this. Not immediately, it's going to take time, we all recognize that, but we're all here for the long haul. We want the city to be a better place for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yep. Just need you to state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Sure. My name is William Green. I'm a resident of Allentown, 214 North 8th Street. Also on the executive board of OPA, Old Allentown Preservation Association. I have 4 items that I would like to emphasize here. 1, aesthetics matter. To attract more diverse income groups and increase our revenues, we need more money for facades, more money for rehabs, and deconversion projects. I've seen the little amount of money that has been devoted to the residential area, and it has had a huge impact on Turner Street. You had 6 houses in a row, transformed that block. You had middle-income people in there. They allotted, I believe, 1 home for more modest income. That's fine. Also, downtown, the amount of money that has been invested there, it's great. We love to see that. But there is such a feeling among residents that the residential area has been neglected. It's very lopsided at this point, and that needs to be addressed. So even if a tiny fraction of the money that's been devoted to downtown could be brought for facades, for rehabs, deconversions, it has a huge impact. More trees intelligently placed where you have the shorter trees where there's the side of the street with the electric wire so they're not cut and look mangled after a few years. These things matter. You will attract, like I said, more diverse income groups that will bring in more revenue, and it will help everyone of all income levels once you diversify in that manner. Also, as a side note related to aesthetics, is there's a carriage house on Gordon Street that's ready to, that's in very disrepair, and the city has issued demolition orders. And I find it to be a tragedy that the same amount of money that could be used to demolish this structure, which the city has and wants to use for, could be used to repair the structure. That is so tragic if the city goes along this line of demolishing rather than repairing it for the same amount of money that has been estimated to even stabilize it. Okay, so that's, we feel very strongly about that. The second item, in addition to aesthetics, is code enforcement, which is related to that, obviously. On my block, for example, on the 200 block of 8th, there was a house that was recently sold, allowed to be rented. There's been paint chipping off that building for years. I see the paint on the sidewalk near my house. It was allowed to be rented. I don't see how this is possible. The fence, a beautiful, in its day, historic fence, the wavy line, nice aesthetics there. It is leaning forward, ready to collapse, and I'm sure it'll be put out in the garbage in no time. I mean, these things have to be addressed. And code enforcement obviously has to be done in a systematic way, not to allow this to happen. So that's really important. We see, some dilapidated properties in disrepair, even something as simple as the awnings, If you see an older awning that's got holes in it, we need to address that. It just says that the area is in decay. Something so simple to clean that up, just to remove it, which would be a minimal cost, adds to the aesthetic value of the area. So I think we need to be strategic, not just pour money, but be strategic. Third, zoning. Zoning needs to change and be more flexible. I find it outrageous that there are businesses being denied to be started in our city. The kind of businesses that would attract more diverse income groups. I think that's absurd. We need to be more flexible, and that really needs to be addressed. And fourth, quality of life. Obviously, aesthetics is part of that, but I wanted to add in litter and noise. That's a big deal for us that we live here. Litter, I am cleaning up my block on a daily basis, except if it's icy. And it's as if I never cleaned it up. That needs to be addressed. I know that there are laws where the stores have to clean up the litter, otherwise they could get their points taken away. But still, we need to have other avenues to address that. Maybe more people that would sweep the streets. Those people that do that, that's great. Maybe add more to that. And then, of course, the noise. And I know that the Allentown Police Department, their priority is preventing violence and addressing that and crime. But I think these quality of life issues matter as well. And if at a certain point there were resources available to address the noise and the litter. So that's it. Those are the 4 points that I wanted to bring up, be succinct, and get these ideas out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Joe Calhoun. I live at 313 North 10th Street in Old Allentown. I am on the board of the Old Allentown Preservation Association, and I work at Atlanta. I moved here from Philadelphia, and I don't have a car. So as you can imagine, that is a very tough thing to do here in the Lehigh Valley. I use the intercity transit terminal that was mentioned by Mar and Peter, and it is just depressing going there. It smells, it's dirty, and when you get off the bus, you're welcome to Allentown. Looking across the street is a homeless camp on the steps of the Adelaide Silk Mills. And I moved here to work with the homeless. I worked with Diane Tatey and Chris Coca. We were here at city council meetings, and I care very much so, but I think that's really not the best image. Welcome to Allentown. You're in the diviest, dumpiest part of our city. The Adelaide Silk Mill is enormous and vacant and run down, and some of the other buildings nearby are occupied, but because of the nature of the building, you wouldn't know. They're warehouses that have been converted. So it feels unsafe when you arrive there, and the walk from the bus terminal to Old Allentown feels unsafe. It's dark. Generally, I walk down to Linden and come across that bridge, and then weave my way through my bus terminal. Throughout much of the stretch is dark, full of litter, and you pass through a lot of blighted houses. When I get up in the morning, I walk up my alley because it's the quickest way to the bus stop, and usually I'm running late. And you have dump TVs, graffiti, litter. I pass through Chew Street as I come on my way to the bus stop, and Chew Street is just atrocious. It is filthy every week. It amazes me that we have twice a week trash pickup and street sweeping, and yet our neighborhood is so dirty. I grew up in a city. I'm used to living in urban conditions. We did not have street sweeping in the part of the city where I lived, and we only had trash pickup once a week. Despite that, there was not nearly as much trash on our streets as there is here in Old Allentown. It really is disappointing, and it kind of puts you in a bad frame of mind to start your day, which is unfortunate. I would say those are some of the biggest issues we have, is the blighted properties and the litter. And more can be done about it. We could have more trash cans, there could be fines, whatever it may be. The clean team, I have walked behind them and watched them not pick up trash in the morning, because I pass them on a regular basis when I'm walking to my bus stop. That's one of the benefits of being someone who doesn't own a car. I walk around this city a lot. I see a lot more than some other people might. And I've seen them walk right past trash. And I appreciate what they do, but I think cities, real cities, have paid staff sometimes that are held accountable by the city. Or maybe a business improvement district that covers at least down to Linden Street. We do have the Hamilton District. It stretches from Linden to Walnut. All the funds seem to go on Hamilton, nothing really seems to happen on Linden or Walnut, but we don't have a business improvement district that spends money like a central business district like Philadelphia or other cities have. That would allow some money that would not come out of your pockets, the city itself, not you individually, but that would allow the businesses to fund some of these quality of life issues that we're facing. And the money that you save that the city would be spending in the business district could then be put into the neighborhoods. Because in the 5 years I've lived in the city, the change along Hamilton Street is amazing. It's really mind-boggling. It's wonderful. To see that much investment in such a short period of time is incredible, but nothing has changed in neighborhoods. In Old Allentown, where I live, you could have visited there 5 years ago and visit there now, and generally it looks about the same. You would not have noticed any change in 5 years. There's some small stuff. We do our tree projects and we love it. We're happy about it. We celebrate the small victories, but you're celebrating victories because they're few. And you're learning every day the problems because they're many. Flooded intersections. It's just a minor thing that kind of affects you, but like 8th and Gordon always floods every time it rains. Turner and Fountain, you cannot cross, if you're walking down Turner Street, you cannot cross Fountain when it rains because it's just a giant puddle that's deeper than my waterproof boots that I always wear because it's always flooded. Chew and Nagle is another one. I don't know whether our stormwater system is deficient or there's just not enough drains. A lot of times you look at those intersections and there are no drains. So that's something I think the city could hopefully address. And then I would also go back to something that Mr. Green mentioned is city spending funds to demolish buildings when they could be spending funds to stabilize buildings. I live on 10th Street where the sinkhole homes were taken down. 3 beautiful properties. They're some of the nicest ones on our block. They maybe were beyond saving, I don't know. I met with Shannon Calori. We were on this committee where they were giving the feedback. There were supposed to be streetscape improvements, never happened. I followed up with the city multiple times. They said, oh, well, those are off the table now. So we had trees there before, and we lost them. They paved over tree wells. I mean, if we're losing these beautiful historic buildings, we could at least get some street trees out of the deal, or some trash cans installed, or some banners, or something. We're about to lose the carriage house at 8th and Gordon. It is the only carriage house in Old Allentown. And that is our signature intersection. It's the heart of our historic district, the largest and oldest historic district in Old Allentown, and the city's going to demolish it. Not a private contractor, not the homeowner, the city of Allentown. Old Allentown did have people go through there, including City Line Construction. We had an opinion from an engineer. According to the people we had through there, it can be stabilized for a small amount of money. Probably the same or less as what the city's paying to demolish it. Carriage house is one property, but it's a theme here. The city should never be spending money to demolish buildings if they could spend the same amount or less to stabilize it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. If you just hold on for 1 second. Mr. Hanlon, who would Mr. Calhoun need to speak with for any issues with the CLEAN team? Who oversees the program?
I'm well, sorry to interrupt you, I'm well aware. Poor Ann Sauerman must get 100 emails from me a week. I feel like I've turned into the city's new Shane Philman. I email complaints on a regular basis. Ann's wonderful. I think she's understaffed.
How about Tom Harper?
Tom Harper, yeah, no, and there was Anna Dunavant before that, and her right-hand guy, I forget, I think his name's Eric. They get lots of emails from me. I feel like I'm a pest, and Ann's a personal friend, but they're understaffed. We have a mayor who prides himself when he hasn't raised taxes in 13 years. Well, you can do that because you are having attrition in the city. We used to have 16 housing inspectors, now we have what, 8? With 1 on sick leave, so 7? These are how you get these code enforcement issues, these are how you get these litter issues. The recycling, Bureau of Recycling Waste Management is understaffed. The housing inspection office is understaffed. Unfortunately, the reality is, whether the money comes from raising taxes or whatever, we need more staff to address this quality of life, because I want to move. I don't like living here. I love the people, but the blighted properties, the litter, the graffiti is depressing. And when I get off that intercity bus terminal from the airport in New York, or from Philly when I go home on weekends to visit family, it's depressing.
I appreciate your contributions, Mr. Calhoun. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I agree with you, and I think everyone who sits on this dais would agree with the fact that we've reached a rate of attrition that is unsustainable. And we need to look at that, and that needs to be one of our highest priorities. I know that's something we frequently discuss. So, is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment?
Good evening. My name is Lauren Golden. I'm here representing the Allentown Preservation Link at 1518 West Walnut. And not wearing my APL hat for 1 second, my day job is Trail and Stewardship Manager for the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor. It's a 5-county corridor that includes Bucks County, Northampton, Lehigh, Carbon, and Luzerne County. It's the nation's only national heritage area that has a Smithsonian affiliation. And Allentown has the unique position of sitting directly in the middle of a 160-mile-long recreation trail. And so, Daryl, you had mentioned earlier about not wanting to expand Allentown's park service, or park system. But I think that if you were able to connect into the DNL, you would be able to expand recreational opportunities and improve the quality of life and free exercise opportunities for everyone.
I agree with the trails. I said,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have another park at this point in time.
Oh, what I'm saying is by linking into the system, you'd be connecting Allentown residents to both Lehigh Gorge State Park and Delaware Canal State Park without really doing much of anything. So it would be a lot of bang for the buck. Oh, so back to my APL hat. I won't belabor the point that a few other folks have made about coordination between zoning and permits and historic or blighted properties, but I will offer kind of an anecdote as to how I've witnessed the system not functioning. And I really think it's a communication breakdown, partly fueled by overworked staff. In a historic district, you know, the exterior character of the building is it's not a matter of someone's aesthetic taste. It's cultural resources are viewed like environmental resources. You know, in a park, the trees are important. On a certified historic structure, for example, the height, massing, and balustrade characters are also important. So a person buys a house and there's some deterioration on their front porch, and someone from the permit office tells them they have to replace the front porch railing. So they do, and they do it per the building code, but no one tells them that they're in a historic district. So they replace the front porch railing, and then HARB sends them a violation because they've installed one that meets building code standards and not historic district standards. The Universal Construction Code says that historic structures are exempt from those kinds of things for the purpose of that cultural resource. So then they end up in this vicious cycle, right? And the two departments aren't communicating. And the poor person who owns this property just wants to know what sort of railing they should have on their front porch that makes the city happy, and the city can't make up its mind. So kind of a good example of how exactly the dysfunction is playing out and creating frustration in the neighborhoods. The other thing I'd really like to talk about is, in a broad concept, is the idea of historic properties as economic engines. Right now, I think a lot of them are viewed as impediments to economic development, and I think that's a missed opportunity. Recently, the city was ranked as one of the top 100 places to live. Forgive me, I'm forgetting exactly which listing that was, but one of the points that they called out was the character of West Park, the beauty of the homes, the walkability of the neighborhood, the existing infrastructure. And when I drive around the city, West Park maybe is the best maintained because it is a designated historic district. Old Allentown, I would say, is similar. I'm rooting for Old Fairgrounds. My favorite buildings are over in that neighborhood.
Love turrets.
But you know, when people come into the city, those are the neighborhoods that they want to spend time in, and So investing in those properties and looking past the blight and seeing those as worthwhile investments. I won't bore the whole crowd today with the economics of historic preservation, but I would encourage you to investigate that a little bit farther. Some of the programs that have been so successful, Pete Lunez's current facade program and previous facade programs, the Main Street program in general, are all programs that were kind of assembled, put together by the National Trust for Historic Preservation way back at its inception. So we're doing that, but I think we can do it better. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.